good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We are here with Heavenly Destination. My name is Enrique, and I'm going to be presenting a really cool topic today. So, let's get started with our Bible study, okay? This is going to be about David and Goliath. So, in the Bible, in Samuel 1:17, it tells the story about Goliath, who was this really big guy. Okay, he was member of a different tribe. He was not an Israelite, right? And he was terrorizing the Israelites. So they decided to put forth one warrior to go ahead and go up against Goliath, right? And the person that was chosen, he was not a soldier. He was the brother. He was the younger brother of some soldiers. And his main profession, he was um, farmer. He was somebody that was not affiliated with fighting or anything of that sort. And finally, the clash happens. This is one of the clashes of the century. We got David going up representing the all of the members of his tribe, and we have um, David who is doing the same thing for the Israelites. So they're gonna fight to determine if the if the people are going to go to war or if there is going to be just that battle and that's it, right? So they go ahead and fight, and Goliath has all this heavy armor. He's looking really good, really buff, really big. He's listed as being a giant in the Bible. It says that he was about 9 feet 9 inches, which is crazy. And David is just, a shorter guy. He's kind of small, but he has one ability that is very crucial to fighting, and he is a person that knows how to use a slingshot. And, he uses that, and with his slingshot, he gets Goliath right on the head, and he defeats him. He takes his own sword, and then he kills him. And we have many ways of analyzing this story, right? So a lot of people look at the classic underdog story that you want to root for David, right? Because he is on the side of the good people of the Israelites. In this case, they're portrayed as the protagonist of the Old Testament, right? And you see him, he's weaker, he's smaller, and he's going full into this battle, head on into it. But we also haven't really been fair to Goliath. He was also, just a normal person, even if he was supposed to be 9 feet tall, right? He wasn't a god. He wasn't somebody that had any supernatural abilities. And if we think about it, if that's really the case, if he was really 9 feet tall, what are the chances that he probably had, a pituitary tumor, or he was suffering of some other kind of disease? So this probably was a sick man, he wasn't all there in his health, and they're making him fight, and they're um, putting him up against somebody that has this weapon that is, very powerful. A slingshot can throw a stone faster than the speed of sound. That's how slingshots work, right? You ever get a belt and then you whip it and then you hear that little sound at the end? That sound means that the belt is going, faster than the speed of sound. That's why there's that little delay. So imagine a rock going, faster than the speed of sound going towards his head. Uh, that was not necessarily what you would call a fair fight. He was expecting a body-to-body combat, maybe using the sword, maybe using, some other kind of weapon that is handheld. But, David used the slingshot, which didn't involve any, close combat, and that's not necessarily what he signed up for, you know. So we have a lot of people that pretend to be an underdog, but in reality they have different intentions, and that's something that we have to watch out for. So I love this classic stories of, having an underdog, but then they get a little twist at the end. So, for example, one of the stories that I was looking at that does this, and I think it does it in a very creative, very nice fashion, is the story of the Karate Kid, right? You're looking at it if you're in, 1984 or the 1990s before Cobra Kai ever came out. You're looking at it and you're rooting all in for Daniel San, right? You're like, oh my God, he's the hero. He's gonna defeat this big bad guy. He's gonna win this karate tournament. And you're looking at the whole story only from his perspective, right? You're seeing him as the David. You're seeing him as the underdog that's gonna take on this massive challenge. And only when they make Cobra Kai do you start to see the other side of the story, right? You start to analyze, well, maybe Johnny Lawrence wasn't that bad of a guy, He was just a teenager himself. He was also misunderstood. And just because the story portrayed him as the big, strong Goliath doesn't mean that he was a bad person. He was not the underdog in the story, right? But through his own story, he was the hero. Oh, and we have to be careful of those fake Davids, right? We are living in a time where we're having a lot of men that pretend to be the underdog and they go against the big, powerful interest of the big media and the fake news, and they talk about how they're, this outsider and this visionary, and they kind of portray themselves as being just one person among the masses and the one that needs to go there and needs to fight. And they take on a lot of these characteristics that, frankly, do not belong to them, but they play on the idea, right? They make you feel like, oh, he's one of us. He's the one that's representing us right now. He's the one that we need to look forward to. And in reality, a lot of these people that we see as um, humble or as, having this common people's perspective, these people are billionaires. These people are, millionaires. These people have everything with that they need, every resource that they could ever hope for. And they're not there to help the common person. They're not there to help um, you or I. They portray themselves as to be Christian. They portray themselves as to be moral, as to be working for the public good. And in their actions, you can see that they're not. So this is the message that I wanted to send to everybody today. Be careful of the David versus Goliath story. There's a lot more that goes into it as it shows, as it manifests, as it repeats. You will see over and over again this person that they try to vilify and they try to show as this huge big monster that cannot be defeated. Many times it's not. And this underdog that is presenting themselves as the savior, a lot of times they're not there to save you. They're there for their own interest. Okay, we don't see the viewpoint often, or we don't talk about it often. But a lot of the false prophets that we will encounter in our lives, that's the persona that they take on. They don't take on somebody that is peaceful and all giving and all loving like Jesus. They take more of a David type of role, and that's how they rise to power. That's how they are able to manipulate you, and that's how they are able to have the masses on their side. They play on the idea that you're going to get something um, because of them, that they're the person to go to. and I'm not saying any names, right? But you guys know what I'm talking about. If you live in the United States, you know that there are powerful individuals currently with a lot of things in mind, with a lot of goals that they're utilizing the media, that they're utilizing, especially social media, and they're utilizing all these other channels to promote hate, to promote war, to promote taking things away from regular people to give to other powerful men. And yet they portray themselves as David. They portray themselves as the little underdog that's taking on all this powerful interest, when in reality is anything but that. And I'm curious to know what everybody out there thinks, and if you have noticed that this is a little theme that keeps happening, and we're seeing more and more people rise to power all across the world that have been, frankly, very, very evil, and they keep getting more and more power every single day. So, what can we do? What can we say? What can we suggest? What can we um, put together so that we are better off? First and foremost, rely on your faith, rely on your community, help each other out, make sure that whatever it is that you're going through, that you are suffering from, you seek the support of others, and that when you can help, you support those around you. Okay? We're going to get through this tough times. We're going to come out on the other side. We're going to be better for it. And please join community of faith if that's something that you're interested in. And if not, then be your own pillar, be your own support, and have always God on your side. Okay? Thanks so much for tuning in.